Hey everyone, Colin once again, and welcome back to the next episode reviews of this monster wants to eat me, and which I once again I skipped last week's episode 10. And now we're on episode 11 as well, so a little bit of both once again. But yeah, so if you're wondering, yeah, they'll change of clothes again because long story short, I had another funeral to go to. Sad to say though, another death in the family on my mother's side though. So, but just not to make it too long though. So that's why I'm once again wearing a tie here. So and a nice shirt as well. So, but other than that though, yeah, it was sad though. Once again, because like how old funerals are. So, but long story short, it was my great uncle, my mom's uncle. So, but everyone's doing fine though. So, but just a little comforting there. But anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, just briefly on this Monster Wants to Eat Me episode 10, which I skipped last week, which I mentioned that there was the where Shiori mentioned years back, there was a girl that was like Hinako, right? And saw her and it was like the same, it was like kind of like the same way she was, like Hinako was, right? So we see more of this girl from her past, right? And she was saying the same thing, you're a monster, right? And she tried to kill her. This girl tried to kill Shiori, right? She was like carrying a whole bunch of like, I guess like explosive. Well, they look like grenades, but how explosives were for back then, I guess. So because they look like grenades though, old fashioned grenades, and she goes and drops one, and she kills herself as a blowing herself up. And but she managed to get Shiori though. She got like half her body was blown up, and so like it was like, yeah, it was like half, but she survived though, but just half her body got blown off. So it was just her upper half survived. So she spent years just drifting through the sea until she fully managed to regenerate herself. So the times when she was drifting along at sea, that's, I guess now it's been for years and years, and so into the present where she managed to meet Hinako when she was a little girl. And when Hinako met Hinako, she wasn't scared of her. She just called her Fishy. So yeah, hey Fishy. And so Hinako, when she was a girl, she first met Shiori and befriended her, talked to her, and gave her food and stuff like that. And so and then because this is the time when they were on their trip, right? And so wondering if I managed to see her again. And so this and since like Shuri wanted to eat her, right? But she said no. There was something like different about this girl, right? So and then it's when once short when she managed to give her mermaid blood. Open your mouth, one drop of blood, and then say hey. And that's what she said that prayer. Hey, live a full life, right? Live a happy full life. And shortly afterwards, that's when the accident happened. So, getting it now, episode 10 was good. Don't worry about that. It was a good episode. So that's what basically logistics it because of a little bit more on that girl that was from her past, right? And that's when she first met Hinako. And getting into episode 11. This was just episode 11 was such a hard break of an episode. It was so heavy-handed. It just kind of it just like devastated me inside. It just devastated for me inside. I'm watching like this because I always like concentrate on watching, just to focus on what's on the subject that's happening, like this. And I'm like, and by the time we're towards the end, I'm like, This is how it was when I was as I was watching it. I'm like, just especially when it happened toward the end of the episode. I'm like, or even when the scene where where Miko was talking to Hinako in her room, right? And I'm like, yeah, in the inside of me just got devastated, because this I was probably say this is one of the best episode I've seen of this year, because dealing with the subject matter, dealing with such depression, right? I'm just like, oh my god, can this no level of insane amount of depression couldn't be anything like this, right? Because as it was going, like after Miko had that little trip, little date trip with Shiori at the zoo and ever, right? And so, and then learned that Miko was trying to call her Hinako, but turns out she's not coming to school. She's skipping a day, saying that she has a fever. So she wants to go over there and check on her. And since now that Shiori, even though she wants to go, but you know what? Given what she said to Hinako, and especially Hinako telling her you're a monster, yeah, it was not the right move to go over there. So that's why she goes and says to Miko, "Hey, give her my regards." And she's like, "Okay, I'll do that once for you." So he comes over, trying to put a big smile on her face, like she usually does, with ice cream and all that. So she gets invited to her house, and so they're in her room and talking, and just and Hinako is asking a question. Okay, it's a legit question, right? It wasn't meant to be a trick question, right? She's asking a legitimate question. With her family died, right? And because of what Shiori's prayer and all that stuff, right? She survived, right? But she goes and asks Miko, "Are you happy that I lived and my family didn't?" Miko goes and says, right, "Well, maybe it's kind of selfish of me though, but thing is though, given that you've been my friend for a long time, I couldn't help your family. It was horrible what happened, right? But I couldn't, even though I couldn't help it. I couldn't grant your wish, right? But and basically, in my opinion, says I'm glad you're here, because you and I have been friends for long. But I'm glad that you're here, though." And Miko just well, Hinako goes to her. She starts crying. Even Miko goes and hugs her, right? And she goes and says, even all that though, I just wish I would have died with them. That was one thing that hit hard though. Yeah, she expressed about wanting to, not wanting to live and all that stuff, right? Because after all, we've seen her like drowning, surrounding in the water and all that stuff, wanting to be gone, right? Not wanting to live, but just hear her say that out loud. To hear her say that out loud as if she wanted to die with her, she wanted to die. That's just That's just heavy. That's just so heavy and so blunt and hard to hear that. And so after all of that, she goes and leaves, and it's the next and says, "I'll see you at school though." And she even texts her, "Hey, if you don't have to come to school, you don't have to." But Hinako goes and says to herself, "I have to go." And we see her like just cooking her lunch, brush her teeth. She's just going through the motions, right? Just like slowly doing it, cooking the lunch slowly. And you see the look in her eyes, and she's just going through the motions of doing this stuff, and once again you see her scars, and just you can see that she's pretty much wants to be dead inside. She's dead. It's almost like she's a dead girl walking, but she's just going through the motions, and that's when it's storming and rainy, and she's walking, and it's rain pouring down, and she goes and looks at the sea, and she sees one of those hands, those demon hands, right? How Shore explains to her, is like, hey, the people that did not cross over, they still have regret or resentment and all that stuff. They're not either spirit or yokai, but but they are dangerous to people like her, right? And so, but she sees that, and she's remembering her family, hearing her, the voices of her family telling her to survive, because all this time, all these years, she thought it was her family, the voice of her family telling her to survive, but it turns out it was Shiori's voice, because it was it was all what she did to her back then, the prayer and all that stuff, right? Know that now that all that has been a lie all this time. And so what did she do? She says, just I'll let it go now. She starts running towards the hand. She runs towards the water, towards the hand. Now, as she knows that and then and there, like the look on her face, crying, tearing. She wanted to die right then and there. That's why she was running towards. I'm like, oh my god, this just. I didn't have no words to describe at the moment as I was watching. Oh my gosh, this is it. She really wants to die now, because after all, now the words of her family don't mean anything anymore, because it wasn't them the whole time. So she decides, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna let it go. I'm just gonna go die, basically. And then Shiori goes and steps in, and pulls her away. And this is the first time we see her legitimate angry. You can see just the look of anger on her face, because the whole time every time she's been talking to Hinako, she's always has that smile on her face. This time she's literally angry, and you can see her when her eyes change from her yokai eyes to yellow, that are yellow, and she goes and says to her, "Why would you do that?" That pretty much just angers me, that why you doing that. And then she goes and starts to choke her, but she stops herself. It's like, no, this is not the way to do it. Just talk to her. That ending there, what she attempted to do, because she, that she wanted to die, but, and essentially she can no longer cling on to what was her, which she thought was her family's words, but it wasn't. So you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna be with them now. I'm like, Jesus, man, that just really kind of just broke me right there. This is easily the best episode by far of this season of the show, and probably the best episode I've seen of this year, because the dealing with depression, because I haven't seen on that dealt with depression that badly since that first season episode of Oshinoko with Akane. Remember how she was being cyberbullied so bad that she was driven to the brink of suiciding herself by jumping off that the bridge onto the highway, being pushed that far, and then with her with Akane, and then with Hinako. My God, just how will they deal with depression in anime like this? I gotta give props to, because sometimes it does tackle serious issues, because if you're the only survivor, your family, and you don't want to go on no more, but depression, or whether it's depression or PDS, other traumatic things, just cause you just to lose, and just that you just don't want to live no more. My God, man. And just when she's saying it bluntly to Miko, I wish I would have died with my family. And then she just, screw it, I'm gonna go die, go towards the hand, run towards that demon hand, and then with now with Shiori, she was just so, this is the first time we see her legit angry. So this is the most devastating one. It devastated me in a way. Inside it did, because it broke me, but like that. It's that, because I haven't seen just like characters like these. My God, man, I keep on saying the same words, but that's the best way I can describe it, because and so Yeah, this has easily been the best one episode I've seen of this series. Unless 12, the last episode next week tops it, I have no idea. But man, but this has been just this. Like I said, I don't know how people can sleep in the anime community or are sleeping on this series. I have no idea. But people, I'm sure, obviously people are watching this show, obviously, but just people are sleeping on this, keeping this under the radar. I'm sorry, you're missing out. To those who are watching this, you are missing out. Because if it wasn't for this, I was gonna watch Spy Family season 3 just only though, but I couldn't finish it because due to what happened with my back, you know. So, but luckily I decided to keep going to of watching this instead though. Listen, season 3 is once again season 3 of Spy Family up to this point where I've been watching has been great. Don't worry about that. I always love Spy Family. I always keep saying, but season 3 of Spy Family has been great. Yeah, there was been a little bit less, you know, with Europe up until the recent episode though, but that's one of the complaints I had with it though. But other than that though, season 3 of Spy Family has been great. So don't worry about that. Even though despite I didn't finish it on camera here, but it's been great though. Awesome. But this I've been continuing to do because I'm glad I've been watching this because I would have missed out. Especially the insanity of how of the level of depression the subject of depression has been. So yeah. But so a little bit briefly on episode 10 with that what I said in the beginning of this video. But episode 11, jeez man, I gotta give this series a hand on this one because this has been just like absolute crazy in a positive, big positive way, you know. So yeah, so that's episode 11, even all including episode 10 of This Monster Wants to Eat Me. But episode 11, oops, little premature cutoff there. I was gonna say, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the last episode of next week, the final episode of this series. Up at this point, after this, I don't know. Do I want a second season or I don't? Because how the way this series been going. Because I'm always asking for, hey, I like to see the more of the story of the continue with these characters. I'm always for that, you know. But with this one, I'm not entirely sure though. Part of me like a little bit more wants a second season. I do. Because I like these characters. I want to see more of them. But it was like the way this series is going with the pressure. I don't think I want to see more. Otherwise, it's gonna break me even further though. So, but we'll see though. But yeah, so next week, the final episode of this season, if there's gonna be a second season. So, but we'll see. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time. Later.